In the middle of the Holy Roman Empire in the east and the French kingdom in the west stands the Duchy of Burgundy, while the Jure are part of the French kingdom. As they spent their last century fighting the English, Burgundy has been able to grow economically and culturally, becoming practically independent. It even rivals many kingdoms with its vassals and junior partners in the Low Countries. But our future is uncertain as we aren't a kingdom, and our leader, the Duke Philip III, must play our cards right if we want to survive the changing times. And the cards have been played, anticipating that the 100-year war between France and England will once again erupt in a final showdown. We decided to prepare to stab our de jure king in the back, Charles VII of France. But alone, even with England, we stand no chance, as the French army boasts 25,000 men compared to our 16, and they have more subjects with stronger armies than ours do. So we must secure allies who are willing to support us, and thankfully many are afraid of the French growth, most notably Castile. Together we signed a military alliance and had a royal wedding, forging our realms as strong partners. But thanks to the decentralized nature of our duchy, some of our dukes also secured alliances with Aragon, Milan and Brittany. And our observation was correct, as only a year later France would siege down the English city of Maine, re-erupting the 100 Years' War. Having stockpiled some gold for this, we immediately raised 3 additional infantry units, but 19,000 men is not enough. We need even more. So we took a loan and hired 2 mercenary groups with the money, putting our total army size on 33,000, far past our force limit and income. And so the gamble has been executed. We declared war on France and marched our 2 armies into Nemours and Troyes with the goal of laying siege to Paris while the French are distracted with the English. At this point there is no return. Either we win and solidify Burgundy as a rising star among European powers, or we lose and eventually cease to exist as our debts consume us from the inside. To our support in the war we have our vassal of Nevers and our 3 junior partners in the Low Countries, who we ordered to stick close to our forces as to not get run over by the larger French forces. And then of course Castile stands on our side, opening up another front with the French, though the rest of our allies aren't willing to join us. As said, we marched towards Paris, occupying Nemours, Troyes and Rheims, while our partners actually started the siege of Paris and Chartres without us. However, before we went to support them, we received a distress call from Picardy. Some French vassals had occupied our fort. We immediately sent our whole army and started the first battle of the war. As we outnumbered them 2 to 1, the battle was no issue and we could fully wipe them. So with the north secured, we returned to our objective, sieging down Paris and Chartres. After about 8 months of siege, both the city's defenses surrendered and we now have control over the French capital. But with only 28% war score, we can't get much in a peace deal, and much of the French army still exists, an army we need to destroy if we want to destroy any chances of a French comeback. So we started chasing down all and any enemy armies. Once again we found one trying to re-siege Picardy, whom we promptly destroyed. About at the same time the French main army had initiated a battle with our partners, so we immediately sent our forces to help them out. While we arrived too late to save them from defeat, we did arrive fast enough to catch the whole French army before they had reorganized, allowing us to wipe out over 17,000 men, the whole French army. So with only a few thousand vassal troops left, all of them in Spain for some reason, we disbanded one of our mercenary groups to save money and started sieging down the rest of French territory. The French naturally tried to raise up a second army to fight back, but it was futile. Our allies, including Castile, could simply defeat them before they had become strong enough, and eventually the final siege, the siege of Lyon, was over. So we had completely won the war, and the time for a peace deal is here. With the French having no say in the matter, we took over ownership of Nemours, Paris and Rheims, while also ending their vassalage over Orléans and Armagnac to further weaken the French kingdom. And finally we demanded that they pay us over 300 gold, enough that we could repay 4 of our 5 loans immediately. And so Burgundy has expanded, not enough to proclaim our kingdom just yet, but we are on the right path. Our Duke Philip III would not be alive to see us become one of the great powers though, as he had died during the war, being succeeded by his young son Charles I. While not skillful in diplomacy and administrative work, having led our duchy in the final year of the war, he knows how to fight. And hopefully now that peace times have set in, he will develop skill in the two other areas as well. At least with peace we can disband our last mercenary group and lower our army maintenance so we can finally have a positive income. While we first and foremost will use the income to repay our loan, we will also use it to hire advisors to help out our duke. And by granting the clergy some concessions as well, we got them to help out in the administration of our state. Some years later, after having repaid our debts, we summoned the Diet to gain loyalty among our estates. Despite failing to fulfill the bourgeoisie's request, we seized lands from the three estates, which prompted a bourgeoisie uprising, which we easily destroyed. And so we are now back to 30% crown land, which paradoxically allows us to give it away to the bourgeoisie who just revolted in return for more diplomatic power. These three different powers have been used to upgrade our technology. We have already progressed in diplomatic and military, though we are falling behind in administrative since it took a lot of administrative work to integrate our newly conquered lands. On the economic side of our duchy, we are gaining quite a lot of money which we are immediately reinvesting. By constructing a marketplace in Dijon and Paris, we are increasing our trade power in Champagne so that we are able to retain more of the gold coming into the trade node. Exactly 10 years after the war, we have reached the next administrative technology, and thanks to our Duke's military knowledge, we are ahead of our neighbors in military tech. So he has started preparing for his own war against France. Training up 6,000 more troops, he will lead 24,000 into battle. But due to our truce with the French, we can't attack them directly. Instead, we will attack a nation they guarantee and whom we claim land from, Provence. And so, together with all our allies this time, we declared war on Provence and by extension the French and Swiss. The war plan is simple: take over our claims in the north, while trusting our allies to deal with the south, and then switch all our focus to France so we can get a separate peace deal with them. Starting to siege down the forts of Verdun and Lorraine, the French seemed to have noticed what we were attempting to do and sent over their army. While they almost catched our two armies divided in two, which would lead to an unstoppable loss, we were fast enough to reinforce with our other half and could destroy the French army. The following year we sieged down the two castles, and with no more armies coming to save them, the two cities were eventually occupied by us. As we then went on to France, we quickly realized that there was nothing more to do. Our allies had already occupied the country fully. So we sent them our planned separate peace, taking over Chartres and Troyes, demanded war reparations and a bunch of gold. Moving on to the rest of our enemies, here too our allies had done their job, with only 2 Swiss forts remaining. While we did plan to take them over, with war exhaustion rising extra fast, due to Provence having unconditionally surrendered, we ended the war, annexing the whole state of Lorraine. And so another war has been a success, and this one maybe even more than the last, because our provinces are no longer divided, our missing link of Lorraine is back. All the money we've made can also immediately be spent on churches, increasing our tax income. And lastly, we are closing in on having enough development to proclaim our own kingdom. All we have to do is to begin the process of annexation of Nevers, which will take some time though. The only issue is due to our aggressive expansion, a coalition against us has formed, which England, Austria and most of the Western HRE has joined. So until this coalition dissolves, we can't go to war. But that's no worry, as we are focusing inwards for some time nonetheless, and we've already seen its effects with a growing income. 30 years later, a lot has changed. After the integration of Nevers, we could finally proclaim our kingdom, granting us a lot of diplomatic benefits and officially splitting us off from French monarchy. 2 kings later, our current one now has a Polish surname, after our alliance and royal marriage with the important Eastern nation. with both of our kings also being far more skilled at administration and diplomacy, and with us embracing the Renaissance, we've caught up and even surpassed some of our rivals in technology. As our administrative tech has grown, we've also adopted two ideas, that of espionage and economics. Espionage to reduce the impact of aggressive expansion, and economics since our economy has seen a great rise. Lastly, we joined the war started by Brittany, where we got Fribourg and Bern from the Swiss. However, as our Polish king got crowned, we would lose Brabant as a junior partner. Oh, and also, the coalition against us is gone, which means it's time for round 3 against the French. After training up to 44,000 men, we declared war and called in some of our allies. Starting in Savoy, as their states in the French and Swiss regions are our main war goals, we began sieging down their capital. Early on, we won a battle against the French on the province, and after that we were undisturbed until the city had fallen. With Castile having already occupied most of France, and with all the enemy forces in Milan, we moved to open up the road to the area by going to Avignon and sieging down the papal holding. After capturing the fort, we also initiated the papal troops, winning the battle and opening up for an Italian campaign. We quickly seized the opportunity and occupied the rest of Savoy's territory and went on to sign a separate peace deal with them, where we took our 4 claimed provinces. Continuing towards Rome in an attempt to get a separate peace deal with the papal states as well, we had to stop the campaign due to rebels at home. And so we signed a peace deal with the French, ending the war. In it we got quite a lot. Lyon and Dauphine were ceded to us as they once in a time were a part of the Burgundian duchy. In order to further weaken France, the whole western coast was also divided between Brittany and Castile. And finally we liberated Bourbonnais, who we went on to ally and later vassalize. 10 years after the Third French War, our king went on another small war, taking over Orléans and Liège, further consolidating our holdings in northern France. But after this we stopped our expansions due to another coalition forming, and we instead restarted our economic efforts as well as plans to integrate our 2 partners in the lowlands. Over 40 years later, a lot has changed. Castile would put the last nail in the coffin for France, ending their reign, while we would continue expanding in the south through wars with the papal states and vassalizations like that of Toulouse and Switzerland. In the north, our junior partners were also integrated, though they did go on a revolt at one point. Technology has also advanced far, as with the discovery of a whole new continent in the west, the age of colonialism has started. The last huge change came hand in hand with the invention of the printing press, a new form of Christianity who rejected the Pope's authority, Protestantism. While this was the cause for our own instabilities in the Netherlands, it has led to something much bigger, the War of the Protestant League. A war spanning most of Europe over which faith should be the dominant in the HRE. While we have been invited by Austria to join their Catholic front, they are, together with their allies the British, our main rivals. So instead we will take this opportunity to declare war on Geneva, the last province in Switzerland we miss, and attack the HRE and their British allies. While this would have been scary years ago, we've built up one of the strongest kingdoms in Europe. Our army is currently the largest, only outnumbered by the Ottomans, and thanks to our huge gold stockpile we can hire a large group of mercenaries, further improving our odds of winning. Now the plan for the war is simple: defend on the east while quickly occupying the British holdings in France, and then move to the HRE. And so the biggest war our Burgundian kingdom has ever been in started. 5 wars later, and despite the independence of the Netherlands, we've gone and done it. The British have been mostly pushed out of northern France, as we now control all of Normandy. And with the addition of this state, we have reached something that was unthinkable a long time ago. We have reached 1000 development, which is what we need to declare the Burgundian Empire. And so another empire rises in Europe, one with the strongest military record and second strongest diplomacy and administration in the world. And unlike the Holy Roman Empire, which is painfully divided, the state under our emperor is the single strongest authority in our lands, with 100% of all land owned by him. With all this, the future looks bright for our new empire. During the last 100 years, we've always remained one of the 8 great powers, and despite the rise of others like Russia and the Western nations gaining a lot of power from their colonies, we are here to remain. So I hope you enjoyed my first video on EU4, even if it's a bit shorter than the usual videos. There's just one thing that I have forgotten, a reference to TNO.